Hello and welcome to the Cold Coffee Club, a podcast brought to you by Houston Moms. We're here to give you a little bit of that mom-to-mom connection, fun, and conversation amidst all the chaos. Join us as we take a break from doing all the things and explore the wide spectrum of this crazy motherhood role. We'll interview fun guests, talk about cool grown-up topics, laugh, share, and grow together. So go ahead, reheat that coffee, and put your feet up. Here we go.
Good morning and welcome to another episode of the Cold Coffee Club. I'm Ashley, of course, your trusty host, and today we're going to be chatting with Dr. Bethany Peterson. Now, she's an OBGYN in Katy, and she and I are going to chat about what PMDD or premenstrual dysphoric disorder is, and also dig into a little bit about postpartum depression. These are two conditions that women suffer from that maybe they don't know that they are dealing with it. They don't know what signs to be looking for, and then they certainly don't know how to get help. So Dr. Peterson is going to join me and chat about those things. Of course, before we do, let's spill some tea. All right, so my win this week is that I checked out a book that has been on my must-read list for quite some time now. It is called Marry Him: The Case for Settling for Mr. Good Enough. If you are a single woman, this is a must read. If you're in the dating scene, seriously read it. It is all about handling yourself in the single dating life. This book encourages you to really think about what your standards and values are. A lot of us didn't really know what priorities we needed to have in looking for a spouse. In our 20s, we didn't have people, kind of guiding us like, hey, you really need to think about these subjective wants that you have in men. Really think about what it is you need in a husband for the future you. I certainly didn't have someone encouraging this, and I think it is a great read, especially if you're in your 20s, really thinking about what it is you want, but really thinking about these things if you're in your 30s and single. You like to think, yes, we have all the time in the world, but if there are certain things you want out of life, like, becoming a mom, it might become more difficult as you get older. And our options do change as we get older. When we were young, bouncy little 20-year-olds, we had all the options. And it definitely changes when you are in your 30s. And if you come with baggage, like, I hate to call them baggage, but come with baggage like children or an ex-husband or all those things that you've kind of packed on since your 20s, it changes the dating pool. And so really considering what type of man is good enough to build a future with, really honing in on those values that you need instead of just those wants and like, I have these standards and I won't date anyone under 6 foot. If you are following me on Instagram, you have seen the post about it that I shared, really breaking this book down, sharing why I enjoyed it so much. It was eye-opening and it encouraged me to really think about what it is that's important, what I bring to the table, and why that affects the men that I attract. And it really made me think about what it is that I want in a future husband. I'm divorced, but I can get married again. I have always seen myself as a wife. I believe I have a lot of attributes that make me a good wife. I just might not have been a good fit for that particular person. And when I think about it, the things that I wanted in my 20s did not translate into what I wanted in my 30s. And if I had some foresight, I probably would have known better. And I would have known that my ex-husband was not the fit for me. This book is written by an author who was in her 30s looking for love, and how it's different and it's more difficult than in her 20s. And hopefully this will steer some 20-year-olds out of some chaotic 30s. If you're in your 30s and dating, it's a great way to remind us to stay humble, to be appreciative. Men are not boxes to be checked. There are going to be things we don't necessarily like about a certain man, but are those things going to be a detriment to whether or not they're going to be a good husband and provide longevity for us? So again, the book is called Marry Him: The Case for Settling for Mr. Good Enough, and is written by Lori Gottlieb. I loved it, absolutely loved it. It was the hard truths that I need. So that was my win for this week. I have a super silly fail this week. It's laughable. It really is. I was telling my children to stop running in the house. as moms do. And I just 2 hours, about 2 hours later, I took a shower, realized I'd forgotten something that I'd placed in the oven. I walked away and I knew that it had been a little too long. So I jumped out of the shower. I was in the shower, I jumped out, wet feet, I grabbed a towel, ran to the kitchen, slipped and fell. My children all just looked at me like, don't run in the house. And obviously, duh, I get it. But it was so funny. Like, it was funny once I realized I wasn't hurt. Okay. Cause, in your 30s, if you take a solid fall, you could be hurt. And I was just grateful that I wasn't. So there was that. But just the moment of laying there on the floor in a bath towel, in a puddle that I created on the floor, and just laughing about it, it was hysterical. And my children really looked at me like, yeah, don't do that. Good times, learning experience for me. I shouldn't have been running. They are absolutely right. And I didn't burn what was in the oven. So I really had time to walk. But good times, good times. For my cream and sugar, I'm going to share something that I recently discovered, and I can't wait to venture through this tour with my children. Galveston has a whole lot of history to it, so much history, and I'm always looking for opportunities to learn something new about the area. I did not know that there are Galveston tree sculptures. These are trees that were damaged by Hurricane Ike in September of 2008. And instead of just leaving these demolished trees, local artists decided to make sculptures out of them. And now they just exist in Galveston for everyone to kind of just check out and take yourselves on a self-guided tour and see them. I can't wait to incorporate that in our next trip to Galveston. I put the link in our show notes about how you can take yourself on a self-guided tour and see all of these sculptures. And it looks absolutely fascinating. There is so much talent and effort put into these sculptures. It looks insanely amazing, and I can't wait. All right, it's time to head into our chat with Dr. Bethany Peterson. She, again, is an OBGYN in Katy, and we dig into premenstrual dysphoric disorder and postpartum depression. Let's check that out. Okay, Cold Coffee Club. Today we have Dr. Bethany Peterson with us, and she's going to share a little bit about PMDD, postpartum depression, all of that we're going to dig into. But before we do, I'm going to turn it over to you, Bethany. Tell us a little bit about yourself, personally and professionally.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me, Ashley. I'm really excited to talk about these things. And like I said, I could talk for hours about both of these, so just cut me off anytime. But my name is Bethany Peterson. I am a board certified practicing obstetrician and gynecologist in Katy, Texas. I have been in private practice for about 15, almost 16 years. Graduated from Texas Tech Medical School, did residency in Houston, and then joined private practices in Katy, Texas, where I've been working for a while now, and really love it. I have the best patients in the world, so loyal, so kind, and wonderful. And yeah, today you asked me to speak a little bit about postpartum depression and premenstrual syndrome, or PMDD, both of which I see literally on a daily basis.
Yeah. So explain to us a little bit about what each of those are, because a lot of us, we don't know exactly what it is. We know that it's something we hope not to have to deal with, but a lot of us don't really know what symptoms, what signs to be looking for, and maybe even some stats, because I feel like a lot of women who deal with postpartum depression or PMDD, they might feel like they're alone, or like it's rare and they just happen to be one of those people. So share with us a little bit about those.
Sure. So postpartum depression is really any minor or major depressive episode that happens within the first 12 months after birth.
Oh, wow.
So people ask me all the time at like 8 months, they're like, is this postpartum depression? I'm like, if it's within the year, it is.
Mm-hmm.
And not that we get caught up too much in exactly when we want to treat your depression, whenever it happens.
Right.
It is truly still postpartum depression anytime in that first year after delivery. It will affect 1 in 7 women. It usually presents within the first 1 to 3 weeks, and it can be distinguished from the baby blues. The baby blues are what hits almost every woman. About 90% of women will experience the baby blues those first 1 to 2 weeks. I kind of call it boot camps for mom. I'm like, this is going to be pretty miserable at first.
Yes.
Then you go home, you experience huge changes in your estrogen and progesterone levels, which can affect the way serotonin works in our brain. You can cry very easily, be very anxious. I usually tell my moms, if you feel better after taking a nap, talking to family, going outside, you're like, okay, I feel much, much better.
Yeah.
It's probably the blues. If those things do not make you feel better, you are not able to sleep at all. You are sleeping all the time. You are having intrusive thoughts. That's when we're getting into more postpartum depression. There are verified screenings for this that I know certainly actually a lot of pediatrician offices do, which is super helpful. I don't know if every OB office does it. But there are qualified screeners that you can take to get a score. But I have found it most helpful just to really know my patients and talk to them. I can usually tell when I walk in the room at their postpartum visit that they're not themselves.
Right.
And so usually I just lead that conversation or have them lead it and tell them to let me know if they're struggling at all, so we can kind of figure out what's going on.
I feel like a lot of women don't realize that it is very common. I mean, if you think about everything that you've gone through, pregnancy wise and then birth and all those shifts and changes, it makes so much sense that, like, of course we're experiencing some stuff.
Absolutely. It is such a huge change in your hormones, like
Yes.
so rapid.
Yes.
It is hard for our brains and our bodies to keep up. So it is extremely common. And I know you asked about a few of the stigmas that we wanted to bust, and I definitely want to bust a few of those because I actually was a little surprised by one of these that I hear from my patients sometimes. They're like, I want you to know I love my baby. We know you love your baby.
Yes.
We are not questioning if you love your baby because you are depressed.
Right.
Patients be like, I don't want, anybody to like think I don't want my baby or I'm upset. We don't think that. And it's okay to not love your baby right away. It's okay to tell us that too. Nobody's going to come and take your baby. It takes time to form a relationship with your baby. And that time can be interrupted by other responsibilities and all the demands on us as moms. So it just takes time. It is also, it is okay to come see your OB about this. You can tell anybody about this. I have a lot of patients say, who do I talk to about this? Who treats me? We do. Hun, we were there like for the delivery. We're here for you for everything. You can talk to us. You can certainly talk to a pediatrician, but they will scoot you right on over to us usually.
Right.
Because they're not treating adults. So postpartum depression will occur after delivery of a baby. PMDD or premenstrual dysphoric disorder is usually something that happens cyclically most months. So it's a little bit different than PMS. About 90% of women will experience one symptom of PMS. That can be anything from breast tenderness, irritability, oh my goodness, food cravings, water retention. We usually think of it, and society thinks of it as like moodiness. But there are physical symptoms and also these occur with changes in the hormones. And women who experience PMS and PMDD may be more susceptible to postpartum depression because you're sensitive to those changes in the hormones. And that's okay. Some women don't experience PMS at all. And wonderful. So happy for them. We were so pleased for our sisters who do not. But if you are sensitive to those changes, you may be susceptible to both of these. I was looking at the statistics for this just because Enneagram 1, I want to get it right. And 90% of women will experience one symptom of PMS. It talked about how only 2 to 5% do we really call PMDD or premenstrual dysphoric disorder. I must have a higher proportion of women with PMDD in my clinic because I think I could classify more than 2 to 5% of women with PMDD. And PMDD really is differentiated when that is affecting interpersonal relationships. But that's not really that hard to do. And those 2 weeks before the cycle. So if you find it affecting interpersonal relationships, that's really where, we want to talk about options for treatments, because if left untreated, we actually will spend 3,000 symptomatic days of our reproductive life. That is 3.8 years.
Wow.
Suffering with PMS, PMDD. So if you look at it like that, people are like, well, it's just those 2 weeks. Yes, but that's a long time. Yeah. And that 3.8 years may be an underestimation, depending on
right. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's a long time. You don't need to suffer that long.
Yeah, that's, oh my gosh. When you put numbers to it, like, oh my gosh.
Yes, we tend to, we're moms. We brush it up. We're like, we can handle this. We can do it. And we'll just push through. And you can, but we can also do things to help.
Of course. Yeah. Any resources you have for either postpartum depression or PMDD, like how to combat it, maybe ways to help yourself kind of avoid it being so overwhelming? Any resources for that?
Absolutely. I think the quickest way to treat and to help is usually medication. And there are so many medications that are helpful, that are safe for breastfeeding, that can be taken if we're talking about PMS or PMDD just for the 2 weeks before your cycle. They don't have to be taken every day. Things like Prozac, which is fluoxetine, the generic, or Zoloft, sertraline. There are so many options that we have that are safe for pregnancy, for breastfeeding, for taking intermittently with PMS or PMDD. So we focus a lot on medication because we are OBGYNs. That is what we do. We are not psychiatrists. Right. We are not even therapists. I tell my patients, I'm a terrible therapist because I'm always on your side. I'm always going to tell you you're right. And that's not how we grow. So therapy can be extremely helpful, but I am not qualified, and most OBGYNs are not qualified to truly offer cognitive behavioral therapy and things like that. Yes. The combination of medication and therapy is gold standard. Like that, that is the most helpful. And it's just that therapy can be expensive, time consuming, and those two things alone for moms are difficult.
Right.
So in that, it takes a little time to establish a relationship with a therapist as well. And I cannot sing the praises of therapy enough, but medication can help and usually works quickly. And so that is our usually first line with patients. And I always give my patients names of therapists out here or wherever they're near. You can, there is also, I found there's a website from, I think it's in somewhere in California, it's called COGBT, Cognitive Behavioral Therapy, COGBtherapy.com.
Okay.
That has like work lists of like how to do cognitive behavioral therapy. That is very difficult on your own, but when resources are short, that is a wonderful website. There's also a PMS PMDD website called iapmd.org with excellent information there. So that can be very helpful.
Awesome. Yeah, I will be sure to share those on our show notes for this episode. Is there anything else you would like to share with us about that? I know that, a lot of us just want to be informed and know that we are okay, that it's normal to experience these things. It makes perfect sense, and that there are options out there to get help. So if there's anything else you want to share with our listeners, we'd love to hear it.
Absolutely. For sure. I want to tell people you are not broken. There is nothing wrong with you. This is the hormones affecting your brain. And while I never want people to underestimate the benefits of exercise, good sleep, and family support, I don't want them to overestimate those either.
Right.
We cannot always run our way through this. I have patients, I think religion is so important, try to pray their way through this. And there are so many, those are wonderful things. And if you are struggling, please talk to us. We would love to help and talk about medication, offer resources for therapy too. So many women experience this. And my patients I'm so proud of my patients who come to us. I tell them when they come to me and tell me this, I'm like, I'm so proud of you. Thank you for trusting me and telling me this, because I know it's hard to even speak it. But I promise if they feel comfortable sharing with people, they will see how common this is, because like I said, I see this almost daily.
Yeah. All right. Well, where can our listeners find you and your practice?
My practice is in Katy, Texas,
Mhm.
where I grew up. It's called Medical Colleagues of Texas. I'm in practice with 2 other OBGYNs. 2 of us deliver babies still, 1 does not. And we have a great nurse practitioner. We're associated with a primary care clinic as well, which is very helpful. I'm on Instagram, but it's just like my kids and nonsense. But
You and me both.
it's my journal. Yeah, it's a little, I say vagina a lot on there, so you gotta be okay with that. But
Yeah.
it tracks.
Right. That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I know you are super busy. If our listeners could just see the email thread that we've had back and forth, just trying to get caught up with each other and like aligning everything. And I know these babies just keep being born and you are busy.
It's been months, but I am so grateful for your patience, and
Yes,
because I
of
was really
course.
excited to talk to you about this. So thank you so much.
Yes, I appreciate it truly. And I'm sure our listeners will love to hear all this information. So thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Thank you, Ashley, for having me.
Thank you so much, Dr. Peterson. It was a pleasure chatting with you. And I feel like we learned so much. And if you have any questions, I did share some of her information in our show notes, and you can reach out to her there. And hopefully we will have her back on the Cold Coffee Club sometime soon. My Houston Mom's House Blend this week is a post by Chris Sizemore, and it is called An Insider's Guide to the Houston Rodeo Cook-Off. Look, I am new to Houston, or newer, and I still don't know much about the rodeo as a whole, all the things that go into it, and especially the cook-off. It is so elusive to me. I have no idea what it is, what happens, who's going, why, how you volunteer, all of those things. So Chris wraps it all up into one perfect post for you so you can better understand the Houston Rodeo Cook-Off. Check out that post. I'm loving it. I was just asking her questions the other day about the cook-off, like, well, but how come? Well, who's when? And I was asking her so many questions, and she could have just directed me to her post, but she took the time to answer my questions. So thank you so much, Chris. Definitely check out this post and learn more. Let's go ahead and wrap up with a see you later caffeinator. This is just some information about PMDD and postpartum depression. A lot of studies show that those with PMDD have a higher risk of postpartum depression. And I think that's something worth keeping in mind when you are having concerns about your symptoms and what might come next. Just knowing what's out there and just educating yourself a little bit and understanding that there is help for you. If you are, you can talk to your OB about any issues that you're having, please feel free. And Dr. Peterson definitely reiterated that for us. You need to talk to your doctor. They are a great source for support, and they have the knowledge to teach you what you need to know about how to take care of yourself. So please don't forget that those options are there for you, that those resources are there for you, and knowing if you suffer from PMDD that there is a higher risk of postpartum depression. So preparing yourself is key, making sure that you have those resources and that you are in open and honest communication with your doctor is so important. Thanks so much for joining the Cold Coffee Club, and I will see you next week.
You've been listening to the Cold Coffee Club, brought to you by Houston Moms. We wish you a fabulous week with your families and look forward to sharing many more cups of cold coffee with you.